Thank you so much for joining David and I today. Many of you know David. He is one of our sales managers here at Huntress, and a lot of you have met him at shows and different events or just virtually. And I am Becky, your partner program manager. So we are here today to introduce our new partner enablement service. My first task when I joined Huntress back in April was doing a series of partner interviews. So I had the opportunity to talk to quite a few of you, kind of learn a little bit about your struggles as you're discussing security with your clients. A lot of you are going to market, you're winning new business with your security offering, but it's those legacy folks that are constantly pushing back saying, I thought you were already doing that. Why would I pay you more for security? Or, you know what, I'm so small, that's never going to happen to me. And so we put together a lot of these assets with kind of that thought in mind. These could definitely be used for new partners, but a lot of this is really designed to help you have those conversations with legacy folks. So we've got a lot of new assets that just went live about 5 minutes ago. We got the green light from engineering. So if you happen to go into your dashboard, some of that's going to be live now. We're going to walk you through a lot of those assets live today. So David, I'm going to hand it off to you to get us started.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Becky. So yeah, as Becky was saying, I run the MSP sales team here at Huntress. I have a great team of reps that I work super closely with, and usually they're the ones that are giving these presentations, but I'm going to do a very brief presentation of Huntress before Becky takes over and explains our partner enablement service. So most of you are new, most of you are current partners of ours already. Most of this stuff won't be new to you, but I do want to just touch briefly on it. And if you want to see like a more in-depth presentation of Huntress, because this is something new that you're seeing for the first time, then definitely reach out to our sales team and they'll be able to walk you through it. With that, let me go ahead and share my screen here really quick with you. And let's see here. Does that look okay, Becky?
Looks great.
Perfect. So like I said, most of you are already familiar with the Huntress service itself. But for today, I'm going to briefly touch on 3 primary areas within the Huntress platform. And those are persistent footholds, which is our primary core service, ransomware detection, and external recon, which basically uncovers exposed ports and services within the service. Huntress's primary service is a managed detection and response service, which is used to detect hacker footholds within the system. And so a lot of people don't understand what hacker footholds are. So I'm going to briefly try to explain those as easily as possible. But to make things simple, a foothold is basically a place for a hacker to hide on your computer. So when hackers attack trusted applications, such as things like attachments in Word, or exploit vulnerabilities in Flash, or make you go into Chrome to some malicious website, they only get one-time access to that computer when they succeed. However, hackers want to be efficient, so they establish what's called a foothold on your system to maintain long-term access. These footholds are designed to evade your preventative security products. Hackers actually take the time to craft a payload specifically designed to put your antivirus in a hard position. For instance, they'll force the antivirus to quickly determine if this is a legitimate, good, trusted application or something used for malicious purposes. Unfortunately, this causes the antivirus to err on the side of caution and not risk hindering productivity for its users. So it lets the process continue to run, which is what we're specifically looking for. So let's talk for a brief moment about the infallible role of software. So let's say you had a PC with a 100 gigabyte drive. At least the first 20 gigabytes of that hard drive are taken up by the operating system. So everything else is installed on top of that. Every app developer in the world has to follow the same infallible rule. Don't corrupt the operating system you're running on. So antivirus, next generation antivirus, EDR systems, all of your preventative security tools run as software on top of Windows, and that's where they live. They're basically playing whack-a-mole in that 80% space. Attackers know this, so they've evolved to live only in the 20% core Windows space here. They know that your preventative tools can't completely help you there. So if your AV were to start killing every scheduled task or every PowerShell it encountered because it thought it was malicious in nature, Windows wouldn't really like that. So the AV looks at it and lets the process continue to run. And that's where Huntress comes into place. Our threat operations team monitors these operating system areas to immediately detect and report persistence mechanisms installed on your systems. One of the best ways to explain security is through the NIST cybersecurity framework. This framework integrates industry standards and best practices to help organizations manage their cybersecurity risks. It provides a common language that allows staff at all levels within the organization to develop a shared understanding of their cybersecurity. So the framework not only helps organizations understand their risks, such as threats, vulnerabilities, and impacts, but how to reduce these risks with customized measures. The framework also helps them respond to and recover from cybersecurity incidents, prompting them to analyze root causes and consider how they can make improvements as well. Here's that same NIST cybersecurity framework in a flat structure here. So here at Huntress, we help MSPs have stronger coverage in detection and response, which is to the right here of boom. And boom is basically the incident that's occurring. So once again, we fall under that layer of detect and respond on the right side of that incident. So our job is to be proactive in identifying threats for our partners and their clients so we can get them stopped and removed before we're dealing with a worst case scenario here. You can't prevent a business from experiencing a cyber attack. You can absolutely put strongholds in left of boom to minimize the likelihood. But when something makes it past, your goal should always be to try to detect and stop it before it becomes a breach or a major problem to the business. So this is what most MSPs have in place here, right? The protection layer where they have a basic antivirus, their DNS filtering, email filtering, anything that's a preventative layer. What they don't discover though, is those things that remain hidden within their systems. And that's to the right of this boom line here. So Huntress is specifically designed as an MDR provider to detect those malicious footholds that have gotten into the system and notify the MSP with an incident report outlining exactly what's gotten into their system and provide exact remediation steps on how to fix it. And I'll show you how all that works in a second here. And always as a last resort, you're always going to have a great recovery system in the end, just in case you need to restore from backups. So here's a quick look at our Huntress dashboard. Like I said, most of you have already seen this, but we classify these incident reports that we send you into 3 areas here. And we classify these things as either critical, high, or low in nature. A critical incident item that we send you would be something like an emotet or a trick bot, things that are propagating throughout systems and spreading rapidly. Those are the things that you want to drop everything for immediately and get to those right away. High incident items are infections that have gotten into the system, have the ability to exfiltrate data, have the ability to drop other types of malware onto the system, probably isolated to one computer, but have the ability to do a ton of damage as well. You want to get to those as quickly as possible as well. Low incident items are things like malware artifacts left over on the system from previous infections, potentially unwanted programs, those pesky ask toolbars, which have the ability to display adware, which can lead you to malicious sites as well. You want to get to those, when you have time, but there's no immediate threat to them. So as soon as you go ahead and remediate those incidents in the system with all the tools that we give you, they'll move into the resolved incidents category automatically. We'll see that it's been cleaned up off of the system. We'll move it from an active incident item over to a resolved incident automatically. And then under the investigations area here, you're always going to be able to see the latest investigations that our threat operations team is running as well, whether it be good or bad. Here's an example of an actual incident report that we would send you. Up here at the top, we list out a description of what that incident consists of. In this case, here's emotet and TrickBot, which were both found on this particular machine. And we can read here, this is a banking Trojan that's capable of automatically propagating throughout a network and is often used to install other types of malware. So we give you the complete description of what it is so you understand the severity of it. We tell you what host it's located on, what organization it's attached to, and then we list out the security products that we found on that system. So our lightweight agent that gets installed on the system runs a survey on that system, and we collect data based upon the preventative security tools that you're running on there. So the ones that we can actually see, we list out here so you can see what it's bypassed as well. And down below here, we list out the exact remediation instructions on how to fix that incident. So these are written out step by step so a junior level technician can follow them. So there's no security experience required on the part of the technician to be able to remediate these things. However, what we recently released is an assisted remediation feature. So at the top of every incident report that we send you, we include this review remediation plan button here, Once you click Review Remediation Plan, we pop up a complete plan on actions that we can take on your behalf. So if we look through this here, we could, in this particular scenario, we would delete these particular files, delete these scheduled tasks, and delete these services. Now, if this all looks good, you can click the approve button here, and we will script out this entire process and send that script down to your endpoint and perform this remediation for you on that system automatically. So as soon as you click that, the process will start working as soon as the agent checks in, and it'll immediately start cleaning up those incidents on all the agents. So in this particular image here on the right, all of these systems experienced both a TrickBot and an Emotet attack. And this was basically spread to 20 different systems. With the assisted remediation button being clicked, we were able to remediate all of these computers within a matter of 20 minutes. And so, there was no manual process involved that would have taken, multiple hours to clean up and tons of headaches. We basically just do it all for you. You'll see 2 computers here listed as still active, and there's 2 like little red buttons there. And the reason that they're still red is because those 2 computers were offline. As soon as they come back online, they will check back into the agent, and we'll send the script down at that point and remediate those systems after the fact as well. So we make it really easy for our partners to be able to clean these incidents off of their systems as well. So beyond hunting for persistent footholds and enabling our partners to push a button to remediate those findings, we've recently launched additional features as part of the Huntress platform as well. One of our newest features is called Ransomware Canaries. And so we placed hidden files around your system to watch for ransomware. As soon as something changes in our canary file, it trips an alert for our threat operations team to investigate. The concept of ransomware canaries is not a new way of alerting for possible ransomware, right? This has been around for a while, but we've looked into how ransomware is changing and what needs to be included to make it fully robust and a useful feature. So we place these lightweight canary files that are hidden within your system all around, and we make it so they're basically undetectable to a hacker. And we design these canary files differently. They each have unique names for each user profile. They aren't named canary. A hacker can't bypass them or find them in the system when they're running, when they're looking for them on the individual computers. So by making each of these canary files unique, we create a QR code that's embedded as an image into the document. And it's completely unique to the end user profile. This way, if they're discovered somewhere on the dark web, there's a way to potentially trace them back to the organization or the individual user that had their data exfiltrated. And this is important now because of all the extortion threats hackers are using as well. They'll ransom your computer, they'll steal all your data beforehand, but if you don't end up paying the ransom, they'll try to extort you for your data, after the fact. So, you're going to be able to see, if these are found on the dark web, what organization they're actually related back to. And finally, we're putting our threat operations team on top of these canary alerts. So having our threat ops team validate ransomware reduces false positives. And based, on potential user tampering as well, we're not going to send you any type of, false alerts. We're only going to notify you when it's an actual ransomware attack that's occurring in your system. So there's no additional noise for you to weed out when you're looking at these incidents. The next feature that we released is external recon, which allows you to see if your clients have services exposed. So just because you have an open port on your system doesn't mean that it's necessarily vulnerable, right? We want to notify you though of all of these, potential vulnerabilities that could occur, so you can take appropriate measures to uncover services like RDP or SMB shares that are open to the internet, so they can be secured if necessary. So we run these scans about, I believe it's every week and a half, and notify you of all the latest ones that we find here, so you can log into this area and see any ports that are currently open that you may need to secure. It's also super helpful when you're onboarding new clients as well to immediately run a security check on all of their open ports as well. So some of you may have already heard, it's not necessarily hidden anymore, but we'll soon be releasing managed AV with Windows Defender inside of Huntress. We're super excited about this feature. Microsoft Defender is basically the free non-ATP version of Defender, and it ranks as a top performing antivirus out in the industry. The Huntress engineering team has been working extremely hard on this feature the past few months, and we're excited to hopefully release it here within the next couple months to you. But you may be asking yourself, why are we doing managed AV, right? I already have an AV. Like, why should I use Windows, Microsoft Defender to manage my systems? And the reason is managed AV sits squarely within our mission of streamlining our partner defenses. So with Defender, there's tons of configuration knobs that will improve security, and they're completely free. But trying to manage it or deploy it is where things become tricky. The idea with managed AV is, how can we get the most out of the tools you already have at your disposal, free of charge, and ones that have the ability to displace your current AV system if you wish as well? And that's why we chose Defender. It's already included in Windows, and it's an extremely strong AV. You can see on third-party AV tests here, it ranks extremely high on the antivirus charts here. So you can see Microsoft Defender, back in August when they ran tests, it rated 6s across the board, the highest of any AV provider here. And so, Microsoft Defender in the past, which was, of course, previously called Windows Defender, wasn't that great in previous versions of Windows. But in Windows 10, it's an extremely strong antivirus, and we're extremely proud of its capabilities. And that's why we've chosen to integrate with it. So we're taking away the obstacles of Defender being difficult to manage and having no reporting capabilities. So instead, we're integrating all of those features directly inside of Huntress, making it easy for our MSP partners to see both their AV and managed detection and response service within the same dashboard, along with all of our other features. So I hope you're excited as we are about this upcoming feature. Our beta testing partners are loving it so far. If you want to sign up to be included as part of the beta, that's open as well. You can go to our support page, find the managed AV sign up form, and submit your request, and we can activate it for you on the back end the same day. So now that we've covered a brief overview of the system, I'm going to pass you all back to Becky, who will introduce you to our new partner enablement service.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. All right, give me just a second here to get my screen share set up, and we'll go ahead and dive into the enablement service. So again, this did go live just a little bit ago this morning. So if you click now into your dashboard, you should be able to see this, it looks like a film icon with a heart on it, that you'll see a few different sections here. For those of you who might never have had access into this dashboard, please let your admins know that they can grant you read-only access, and you're still able then to get into this section and download all of the assets. So if you haven't been able to get into this in the past because it's limited to like a technical team, that is an option then, so that they're not having to go download marketing assets for you all the time. Q&A is going a little crazy. I was trying to answer as David was talking. So for those pending questions still, we are getting answers to you on those, and we'll continue to interact in there as well. So biggest question of the day so far though has been, is this being recorded? Yes, it is, and it will be sent out to all registered attendees following the presentation. So when you click now into the new partner enablement service, there are 3 key areas of kind of content, if you will. But one of my favorite features on here is your account exec's contact information. So because we're currently in the Huntress dashboard, it is a generic salesperson. But if you go into your personal dashboards now, your assigned account exec will be listed as the contact salesperson here. Their email address and their phone number are both in there. So it does give you a way to not have to dig through inboxes to find out who to contact if you need something immediately. There's also then the support email address and the portal suggestions email addresses in there as well. So those features are turned on and you're able to see it. The 3 sections, just kind of a broad overview here. Then is Mastering Huntress. This is really the place to go to for all things Huntress. It is a great place for new folks in an organization to start. And it's a good idea to do a little bit of exploring in there, kind of see if there's anything that you might have missed. And it's also a good place to find any new product updates. Then there's the growing revenue section. This is really the place to go to for all marketing assets, including slide decks, one-pagers, and some great social media content as well. And then there's the gaining knowledge section. So this one is really security knowledge, not just Huntress specific knowledge. We are going to dive a little bit into what assets are available in each of these sections. But this is really a place to go to for all things security content and kind of threat education and things like that. So again, mastering Huntress, growing revenue, and gaining knowledge are kind of the three buckets of content that we've developed here. David, do you want to walk them through a little bit? So if you click into the Mastering Huntress section, one of the first things you're going to see here is an onboarding guide.
Yeah, so basically the onboarding guide is primarily designed for our new partners, but we encourage all of our existing partners to take a look at it and make sure that they're familiar with it. And basically this is your guide to all things Huntress and to make sure you're utilizing all the features that are included in your service. So it contains sections for different roles in your organization, right? There's technical pieces, sales and marketing sections, and information on best security practices. So as we continue to add and modify features within the service, this is going to be your go-to document to learn how to best utilize all of those new features. So this document also goes beyond just your basic Huntress features. If you look at item like 1.6 here, if you can go to that, Becky, really quick, we provide links on how you can enable like 50 free licenses within Duo for MSPs, right? So Duo offers like this free service where you can like enable free licenses, which a lot of our MSP partners take advantage of through that, through that company. And in addition, like in section 7 down here at the bottom, we list links to security toolkits that you can utilize as well. So definitely take a look at this. Provides a ton of information about, just your journey as a Huntress partner and how to get the most out of the service. And also just useful information in terms of just security in general. So definitely utilize this as a resource. And I believe the next one that we're going to look at, Becky, right, is the platform data sheet. Basically what this is the Huntress platform data sheet breaks down all the main features we currently offer. So Huntress, of course, has always been a managed detection and response provider, focusing in on malicious footholds like we just talked about. But we've expanded our service, to include those ransomware canaries, external recon, and the soon to be released managed Microsoft Defender AV. And once it's been officially released in the next couple of months, we'll include managed AV in this document as well. But it's a great tool for your internal teams to get more familiar with Huntress. And it can also be used in co-managed situations where your customer has a knowledgeable internal IT resource as well. So, this just explains all of our different services, gets people familiar with it. And, if you want to, you can provide this to your end customers as well, but it's more geared towards, the MSP partners.
Correct. So the next section we're going to go through then is we'll get into a little bit of this growing revenue section here. Because Zoom slows things down so much when you're trying to run a webinar, I did go ahead and pre-download all of these assets. But if you do click into any of the sections, you'll see that all of these are now available in there. And you can click into the different assets and things and start downloading pieces and things like that. But I did cheat a little bit just for you, so you're not painfully watching me try and download assets as work from home internet is so fun. So a few of the slide decks that are now available in the growing revenue section. We did take some really key feedback from partners, and the 3 slide decks in particular are not co-branded. These were specifically designed to be very grayscaled and non-Huntress logoed so that you can plug these into your existing sales decks. What I'm showing you now is the G slide version of these. What's available for download is actually PowerPoint decks so that you can easily download these, change the color schemes, do whatever you need to do to make them a little bit more custom for your audience, and then plug them into existing decks. But the reason I wanted to show you the Google slide version, which is the system we use internally, is so you can see some of the speaker notes that we also included for you. So for example, on this kind of missing piece slide deck here, we go through a few notes on how to use the deck, how to add your own logo into it, how to change color schemes, and all sorts of helpful things like that to really make sure that this ties into your brand. Just because we think that that's really important to make this look like your content. So as you kind of flip through though, you'll start to see that periodically throughout each of the decks, we did include notes in red for you to go in and update. So don't just download these and try and use them right away, because there are some love notes kind of sprinkled throughout for you and your team. But make sure that you've taken the time to kind of go through it, get a little bit familiar with the speaker notes, and then also made this really custom for you. But to kick off a presentation like Selling Huntress here to an end user, we thought it was kind of important to really just start very basic and revisit why they've chosen to engage with you as their MSP. So some of the areas of the role of IT is really to enable a customer, employer, partner in the business to perform their day-to-day job. So you're going to talk through a little bit of the business objective of IT. We then go a little bit into a couple different versions of cybersecurity. So this is the CIA triad of the cybersecurity cornerstones. Again, we did include all speaker notes, so you could really just read through this as a script to definitely kind of tie in your messaging and make sure that you have the speaker notes or the talking track here for these slides. This is one of my favorite slides. So the preventative security is like fishing with a net. The challenge with preventative security. So you're going to walk through a little bit of the different layers of security and what they're specifically designed to kind of catch if you were looking at threats as fish. It's just a nice visual. You're then going to talk a little bit about prevention, detection, and response, and why these three things together are really critical to keep an end user company safe. So we talked through a little bit here about keeping out the things we know are bad. And we give you, again, a full talk track here that you could really read through. This was intentionally written very conversationally. So you're going to talk through a little bit here of, again, kind of what the prevention layer does in a system. We then give you this really cool analogy of your cybersecurity, like a sporting event or an event where there might be security layers akin to like a ticket taker at a door, the staff at the door, and how detection and response is specifically designed to root out bad actors akin to a security system. So we give you, again, a really phenomenal talk track here to kind of walk through this slide by slide and make sure that you really have this as a storyline. So you're going to talk a little bit about here, again, prevention, detection, response, why these three together are important. And then we go a little bit into how detection and response works. The software scanning a computer, the suspicious behavior, threats are removed and addressed. But again, this is all written very end user focused. We're then going to go a little bit into piecing it all together. So here is where you're going to go in here and kind of customize this. Again, one of those little love notes to you with your security stack. And you're going to make sure that you've really talked through the tools that you've put into place here to help keep them safe. Then we talk a little bit about threat ops and why a personal eye or a person eye on security is an important layer here. So you do not need to go into this piece. This is where you could end the deck if you didn't want to go into this deeper dive. But if you did have a team where talking about threat ops is important, this kind of gives you a next layer to talk through here. Talks about a little bit about context is key. We've got this great swimming pool analogy of you're on the diving board, looks like a great day for a swim. For those of us in the Midwest, probably not as applicable at this time of year, but we can dream with winter looming. But then you're going to talk about how there's sharks in the water, that without that context of what's below the surface, this might not be the best idea. So then we're going to walk through a little bit of what we're looking at. So very simple example of this very simple looking document of a trip itinerary. That when you look a little bit below that surface level, that it's not necessarily in the right place. Kind of taking an eye on where's the file looking, how is it behaving, that context piece. That why is the file in this location? Then we talk about that, is this really a PDF, that the icon doesn't quite look right. And then we go into a little bit of how Huntress talks about reviewing remediation plan. So we do give you a slight glimpse into this. Again, if you did want to kind of open the kimono a little bit and show folks what's going on in a system that you're trying to sell them, this is a cool way to kind of show them how some of these systems operate. And then we show them just some websites. Would your end user be able to tell real eBay from fake eBay or from a nefarious eBay looking site? Same thing with a Facebook site. So we just kind of gave you some different talk tracks and points that you can pull these slides in, add them in as needed to really make sure that this makes sense for your audience. And then we remind you to funnel this into your standard deck or add a call to action. Again, this is where you're going to go in, customize it with your logo, things like that. But this is one of the slides. This deck was really designed that if you're just trying to talk about just Huntress with kind of that advanced threat ops vibe. The next deck goes a little bit more into, it looks like I downloaded the wrong one. I apologize for that. So best laid plans, right, guys? So one of the other decks available in there now is cybersecurity current events. That this was a big ask that people had for us that, you know, it's great. I know I can do some of this research, but it'd be really nice if you created a deck for me that really just talked about some of the current events and gave me some examples for these. Again, we give you all the information on how to customize this deck, what you might need to do with it. But then we go through a few examples that have been in the media recently. Just know this deck will get updated quarterly. So we will make sure that this stays a little bit cutting edge for you and keeps you with some more current stories. Best part about this, so this was written by our fantastic John Hammond, and he gave you, again, a really phenomenal talk track to make sure that you really understand what's going on here and are able to speak to it. So we're going to talk a little bit about Tesla, an NSA threat that's happened more recently, some more things here with Ematel, NSA. But if you look again, the reason I wanted to show you this in Google Slides today was to really show you the talk tracks that we've developed here. There's also the links to the story. So if you did want to go a little deeper dive, all of that is available to you as well. Talking a little bit about a data incident, some more about that. But again, we will keep these updated quarterly for you and try and keep some more recent media stories included in that for you. And then we're going to go into, so there's also one more slide deck that we built that really talks more about if you were trying to add more than just Huntress to a security stack. So I'm going to hand it back to David for a minute to talk through some of the one-pagers, and then I'll get that slide deck pulled up that I had opened up the wrong one. So David, if you can talk a little bit about some of the one-pagers for me while I get this other deck opened up. You're muted.
Sorry about that. We have some co-brandable data sheets that we've released. And the nice thing about these is you can upload your logo to them and also customize the color scheme on these as well. So you don't have to use the Huntress, teal color. But we really want to make it so these fit your brand. But we recommend using these sheets as follow-ups to information for information post presentations that you give. So like when you actually utilize these decks that Becky's talking about and provide like a great presentation to your end customers here, these are follow-up data sheets that are primarily used for that. And you can even download them as part of like assets in a newsletter or things like that as well. But the first one of these is this active threat hunting, and this data sheet talks about how antivirus and firewalls focus in on prevention, right? But don't completely stop attackers from getting into your systems. So here we talk about how to use managed detection and response as part of your security service to look for hidden threats that other tools miss. So it explains that process within here. The next one is the hunt or be hunted data sheet. And this sheet primarily talks about how small businesses can no longer ignore cyber attacks and how emerging threats are impacting SMBs more than ever. So another great one to provide to your customers as well. And then the next one after that is enhance your security stack. And there you go. And this sheet talks about a layered security approach and how MDR helps stop attackers in their tracks once they slip past your AV systems. There's a handy matrix down here at the bottom where you can see AV MDR, a smarter approach for SMBs. And it basically shows where Huntress fits compared to having just your AV alone. So it's always nice to have like just a little matrix to explain, the different features that each product carries out.
Great. Thank you, David. So those are some of the one-pagers. Again, those are really cool in that if you've taken the time to put your logo into our system and kind of set your color preferences, those would appear with your logo. It would override this teal color here and really be in your brand. So they're already ready for you to go. The one slide deck, and again, I apologize for not having this one open, but this one in particular, the security update, was written kind of with the mindset that you're updating or upgrading more than just Huntress, that you might be adding in a few new tools like a dark web monitor or something like that to a stack as well. So again, we do give you the step-by-step of how to use the deck, how to change out the color schemes, all of those kinds of pieces. But what I really wanted to cover a little bit here was what this deck is designed to do as well. So you're going to talk through a little bit of an agenda, what we're here to do today. It's got that role of IT slide included in it again, with that idea that it's really important to just kind of level set why a partner is engaged with you or why a customer is engaged with you in the first place. And then it goes into, you can kind of customize. We did leave in some blank slides for you to be able to customize some different pieces, but we give you again that cybersecurity cornerstone. This will make a little bit more sense once we get into the gaining knowledge section, but we've kind of divided out some of this content based on the maturity level of the end user. So there's some stuff that's written a little bit more level 1 security level or maturity level, and then there's some stuff that's written security maturity level 2. So depending on kind of what you have identified your customer's security knowledge to be, we've given you a few different talk tracks for that. There's the cybersecurity cornerstone version, or for a level 2, we go back into NIST. So we've got the NIST slide here. You can talk through kind of why this framework is important, give you a little bit of, background there, walk you through the different sections. And then we did give you that level, the flat version of the cybersecurity framework concept of the NIST framework that David shared earlier. What's cool here is you can go in and update these tool names to be what your partners know them to be. We know that a lot of you customize in your different stacks what you call, like Huntress, we frequently hear is like advanced threat detection. We know that a lot of you have done similar things with the other tools. So we left all of these very customizable. This isn't just a screenshot. You can go in and change the wording in there to make it match what your folks might see on an invoice or your offerings. So one of my favorite slides in here is this, you joined us in. So this is a great way to kind of give a level set of, you know what, you've been a partner of ours for 10 years, 8 years. Since then, a lot has changed. This is another area where we've written a little love note to you in here. We recommend going in and finding a picture of cell phones from the year that you're referencing here. You want to talk about a way to really quickly do a age your technology, show them a picture of what a cell phone looked like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So add something like that in there. This might not work as well if it's a shorter tenure of a client, but if it's somebody that you've worked with for a long time, this slide is really impactful. Then you're going to go in a little bit about what we've learned about cybersecurity. Again, you'll see through the bullets here, some of these slides you're going to spend a lot more time on, but we did map that out for you. We're going to do a quick level set on what is ransomware. As frequent as that term is to us, it's not always a term that end users really understand what it is. Something they've heard in the media, but maybe don't quite understand exactly what it does in a system. So we've given you a very easy explanation slide on what is ransomware. And then you're going to give them a really cool history lesson. This was one of those things that when I started here, I was really shocked to learn just how old ransomware is and why it continues to be a problem. This is one of those kind of slides that somebody might then go home that night and talk about at the dinner table, which I think is kind of a cool takeaway for somebody, that you might have taught them something really unique or cool that they might take home and share. So we're going to talk about the ransomware evolution. Rather than make these slides with animation, we built this out intentionally to be click-through slides, just in case for whatever reason systems decided not to play nicely that day. Sometimes that is one of the things that doesn't work well, is some of that animation stuff. So rather than make them animated, we gave them each a slide. So you're going to talk about, in the ransomware evolution, the AIDS Trojan, that this started back in 1989 with a floppy disk that got mailed to people with ransomware on it. and that the payment went to a PO box in Panama. Again, kind of a cool storyline. And then you're going to click next to that really the entire ransomware world changed when you could make the payments untraceable. So the introduction of Bitcoin in 2009. They're going to talk through what CryptoLocker is and what it did a little bit. We're going to talk about Locky. But again, as you notice as I'm clicking through, we give you an entire scripted storyline here so you don't have to do any of the research. You can really just read these bullet by bullet. So you're going to talk a little bit about WannaCry. You're going to talk about GandCrab, Maze, and then it overlays how these work again. That is just one more kind of reminder that these work by email phishing, vulnerable services, extortion, ransomware as a service, kind of what this threat landscape has looked like over time. Then you're going to talk a little bit about the eBay for bad guys or empire market. That as these threats have continued to evolve, ransomware as a service and now extortion has meant that there is now an entire marketplace for bad actors where they can go in and buy your data. They can purchase access into your systems, things like that, that we think is important that end users kind of understand that when you talk about targeting certain markets, like this is what's happening behind the scenes and why this continues to be a problem. We've then written in a few areas for you to go a little bit specific here and maybe talk about a case study. Is there anything that's happened in your area recently that folks might relate to or have read about in the media? Basically, the idea here is to give a relatable example. So if you're presenting to a medical office, talk about a medical example, you know, construction firms, things like that, making sure that they're relevant or relatable examples here. And then you're going to talk about some of the current threats. If you choose, you can go back to that current threat slide deck that we discussed a little bit ago and pull some slides from that for some latest news or stats. Then here's where you can talk a little bit about your business's security journey. If you choose to talk about any lessons learned or, you know, a chance to be a little bit vulnerable with folks, here's a chance to build some credibility as a trusted security provider. Then we've got our awesome new downtime calculator. So you'll see here, the link is in here. I do recommend copying that and having it open in your system, kind of going in. But this is a really cool new tool that we had that we partnered with Managed Services Platform to build for you. This calculator demo is a little bit different in that it's meant to be performed live with the end user watching you do it. So instead of just showing up with a random number that you've calculated somewhere that isn't relatable, this is a chance for you to ask them very simple questions. You'll see though, this shows up on one slide and I'll show you why. So as you're talking through this downtime calculator and you're saying, you know, how many employees would be impacted if your network were down? As you scroll that number, you can see this red cost of downtime going up and down. So it really shows what levers impact a cost of downtime. So again, if your fully averaged burden cost of an employee per hour would be, and you'll see that calculator change as you move this button back and forth. Same to impact to productivity. To be honest, if your system did go down, we acknowledge it wouldn't necessarily end all business function, but would it affect 75%, 50%? And you can kind of go through and again, adjust that number as needed. This though is where you come in as the expert that we know, given your size of business, if an attack happened, here's how long we think you would be down. Do you agree to that? We had them specifically set it for 24 hours because we know that, you know, there's at least some downtime included, but then you can go all the way up to 200 hours. So again, you're able to kind of toggle that back and forth and give them a real downtime number that they had some input into. We put this calculator very specifically in this part of the deck because while they've got that number in their minds, you're now going to go to the next slide, which talks about your current security stack. So where you sit today, here's what you have in your stack right now, and here's the price per seat for what you're paying us for your security offering. And then you get to say you should be here. Again, we put this in red so that you go through and talk about whatever new systems you want to add, be that Huntress, being it upgrading endpoints, firewalls, adding new tools, and you're going to get that price per seat increase. And then you're going to funnel this into your standard deck, or we did give you a few schedule follow-ups and thank you type slides just in case. I realize this deck's a little bit longer than the last one, so we did want to give you a bit of a wrap-up point there. So that is the, again, if you were going to kind of upgrade an entire stack, so to speak, for somebody, or you could do this just with Huntress. But this deck in particular is just a slightly different storyline, gives you a different talk track to kind of teach a little bit while discussing that, you know, the threats continue to evolve, ransomware continues to be a problem, and kind of give that, that conversation topic. So David had already talked through the one-pagers while I pulled that deck up. So we're going to go back then to our dashboard here and go into the gaining knowledge section of the dashboard, which now has a few new resources in it as well. David, do you want to walk people through the cybersecurity journey paper?
Oh, sure. So with this white paper, we co-wrote this with DNS Filter. And the goal of this guide is to cover questions like, what security should my customers have in place as their business grows? You know, or, you know, what security should I have them prioritize when their IT budgets are constrained? Many companies are budget constrained and they value certain things over others, of course. And many times cybersecurity is the last item on their list. You know, people don't know what they don't know. As an MSP, it's up to you to understand where both you and your customers are on that journey, you know, so you can help guide them towards cybersecurity maturity, you know, as their businesses grow. So we're actually going to be doing a joint webinar with DNS Filter in mid-December to talk about this white paper more in depth. So keep an eye on your inbox for details on how to register. But you know, it's currently in the portal right now. You can go ahead and read it, and you know, definitely you know, come and attend the webinar later in December as well.
Great, thank you. Some of the other new features here in the gaining knowledge section is we've updated the guide to selling cybersecurity. So for those of you who weren't aware, we've had this guide around for a few years now. We've added some new sections to it. This piece is really helpful if you've got new folks joining who might be newer to cybersecurity in general, or selling cybersecurity. So this gives folks really great talk tracks for kind of what different security layers in a system do, what the difference between antivirus and next-gen antivirus is, and some things like that. So again, I've seen a lot of folks use this as an onboarding guide for new employees starting as really a deeper dive into the different layers of a cybersecurity stack. Another really cool function that we have built out now is this Huntress recommended resources guide. So, you know, we've had folks ask before, what social media things do you follow? Where are you getting some of your knowledge? So there's some great Twitter things. If you're in, you know, if you're on Twitter, there's some great different resources to follow there. There's some YouTube pieces in here of different folks we recommend that you follow if you're interested in going deeper, different articles and blogs, some different webinars, different Reddit threads if you're there, different books to read. This will also be an evolving document, so we'll add stuff as we find really cool new things. But this was a really fun one to get to work with, again, John Hammond on, as different kind of pieces that he recommends or that stuff where he gets his information. So some behind the scenes there of some of the up and coming stuff. We've also got in here now, under the Mastering Huntress section, is the all new, excuse me, how to do the hacking Windows demo. So we've updated a lot of that content as well and given you some really great new tools and tricks to do that hacking Windows guide, and with some updated how to set up your virtual machines and instructions like that. So there's a lot of content in this new section, or in all three of the new sections, forgive me. And what we're looking for from you then is, as you start to engage in these different new pieces of content, give us feedback. Let us know how it's going. Is there pieces that are missing? Is there something that if we could provide more information or different story threads, let us know how we can help you have these conversations with your end users. You're the ones out there having them every day, so your feedback is critical to helping us grow this solution. I do see some questions here in Q&A. There's a lot in here that are answered in more of our demo calls that we do every month as well. Cyril, I see a question here about tying into the MITRE attack framework. That is on our roadmap to add some slides about that as well. So know that that's coming from us, and we will get you, again, updated and new content in here periodically. Let's see, and then let's see. We are getting some different battle cards built out as well. That will give you some more information on why Huntress is the best solution for your clients versus maybe other solutions. So battle cards are also next on the roadmap and should be out there in the Q1 timeframe of some additional content in there. David, do you see any other questions that would be easy ones to answer that kind of tie in to what we're talking about here? I did see one in particular on pricing.
What was the pricing question?
Will you cover the costs to an MSP? If you can just talk through a few of the price brackets for us, that'd be great just to get
Sure,
Bill's
yeah.
question answered.
Yeah, pricing for MSP starts, we have two different programs. We have a pay-as-you-go program, which is our monthly no contract, no commitment plan. And then that starts at $2.50 an agent per month on the pay-as-you-go program. And then we have our contract-based plans, which is for a 1-year term. If you commit to a 1-year term, you get discounts off of the pay-as-you-go program, which starts out at a 100 agent license, which runs $2 an agent per month. And then it scales downward from there. So at like 250, it's $1.88, 500, it's $1.75, 1,000, it's $1.60, and it continues to scale from there. So, but pricing standard across all of our MSP base.
Perfect, thank you. Seeing if there's any other questions, and I'm going to stop share here for a minute so that I can see if there's anything going on in chat either that we can easily answer while we're here. Okay. Looks like somebody had the partner enablement section disappear for a second. I do know engineering was still manipulating a few things on the back end. So if you can check again, if it is not back, please do email support@huntress.com and we'll get that updated for you. Trying to think, see if there's any other questions as we kind of go through. Looks like once again, yes, the recording will be made available. We'll get that emailed out to all registered attendees. And I think that covers most of the questions that we had that are easy to answer. Some of these are a little bit more technical, so we'll get those pushed out to folks as we get those answers. And quarterly security PowerPoint.
If there are any technical questions that you need answered, feel free to reach out to support@huntress.com. We have a great team of support people that will answer your questions right back if there's any of a technical nature.
Great, thank you. Perfect. So again, we'll continue to roll out new assets and make sure that this stays relevant and up to date. We've got some different stuff coming out. Again, in Q1, we've got a long kind of wish list of assets that we're building. Always looking though for your feedback, for your inspiration, where we can help you. Make sure that you're emailing those requests to partners@huntress.com. You can always enter them as support tickets as well, and we'll get them funneled into the right place. But partners@huntress.com goes directly to myself and a couple others to make sure that we're keeping kind of that wish list growing. We look forward to your feedback, hearing your success stories. Let us know where you're seeing success with these, and again, where they might need to be tweaked. And thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate you all joining us. And we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.